Hello, friends. I have an evening to myself and I'm feeling inspired to organize my bookshelves because I just had my first volunteer shift today at the used bookstore run by the public library here in my new hometown. And I spent the afternoon shelving books, which made me excited to come home and shelve my own. So I've got myself a glass of wine, got myself my audiobook, and I'm going to go ahead and pull my books off my shelves and start sorting them. So I will take you along for the ride. I started by showing a couple things to the camera, forgetting that obviously I would be time lapsing or speeding this up so that you don't have to watch me organize my shelves over the course of hours. Oh, here comes the cat to say hello. That's Frank. I was trying to be pretty thoughtful with my book selections as I was sorting them so that I didn't have to revisit the categories too much, but I definitely had to do some later on as I was putting the books back. Little wine break there. Oh, and here I'm making some shorts. My brother gave me the great idea of a couple shorts with book club recommendations. So I made a couple shorts while I was filming this as the idea of, different recommendations sort of came into my head. One of the recommendations that I made is for cookbook clubs, so that's probably what I was doing there. I'm organizing my cookbook section because that was an obvious, easy one for me. I didn't try to fill the cookbooks into my other categories. So that's why you see that section already there up on the shelf, and I'll leave that pretty much as is. Oh, husband called, cat came back. I got some exciting news. I don't know what that expression was. I don't remember. And getting pretty close to the finish here. I had most of my books on carts and then also some spread on the floor. Oh, there's my book club recommendations. Check out the short if you're interested. I'll try to put the covers up here on the video feed as well. I think I was kind of slowing down at this point, getting a little sick of the process, but it was fun overall. And bada bing. I have sorted my books into piles and am now kind of trying to match the list of categories that I had brainstormed before to what I found when I was sorting to what seems to fit better now. An interesting note, as I'm trying to describe really specific emotions that books evoke for me, I'm coming up with like phrases like when you want to sink into a tall leather chair next to a fireplace at a pub, for example. So it's kind of challenging my emotional vocabulary, I guess. Okay, the shelves are finally organized, so let me take you for a tour. Here's the full panned out view so you can see them in all their glory. You may notice that I moved the games from the bottom shelf up to the top shelf. It does make them a little bit harder to reach, but I just liked having the spines of the books be a little bit more visible by having them closer to the ground. And the top shelf is still easily reachable for me and pretty easily visible from across the room, so I think that's okay. I'm probably not going to do a tour of the game shelf right now, but please let me know if anyone is interested in hearing about games. I could certainly offer many opinions on games. I've spent countless hours playing TTRPGs like Pathfinder and Dungeons and Dragons, as well as deck building games and other strategy games. Those are our favorites. I did want to give a quick shout out for people who aren't as diehard into board games. Our very favorite games to travel with are these German games. That's pretty clever. And then the sequel, I suppose, twice as clever. They're super fun. They're really challenging. The box is pretty small, so they're easy to travel with. And then it's just a dice game, so you can play on the beach or on the plane, anything like that. So highly recommend. Okay, let's talk books. Real quick here, I'm going to try not to bore you or take too long chatting. Here's my first section. I wasn't too creative with with the naming for this first section, I just went for hungry is what emotion cookbooks address. But I did make a short the other day as I was organizing the books with recommendations for books for cookbook clubs. Hopefully some of you out there are participating in cookbook clubs. It's a super fun way to get exposed to new cookbooks and have little dinner parties or eating parties with your friends, so highly recommend. The books that I called out in my short are actually all kind of over here on this side. So More is More by Molly Baz, Molly on the Range by Molly A. I love this cheese board deck by Meg Quinn. My mom gave me that. Thanks, Mama. Death & Co. is the cocktail Bible, I would say, if you're interested in making cocktails with your club. And then also Start Here is great, especially if you have some people in your club who are, maybe new to cooking or who are wanting to kind of step back and familiarize themselves with the basics. Next is my TBR pile, so also not very cleverly named. I had this basket, and that's what I have been using in the past to put my to be read books in. As I was organizing, I found a couple more that I also haven't read, so I had a few more than fit in the basket. So just kind of stacked those next to it there. I am going on a trip soon, so I'm going to the beach, so I'll be doing a lot of reading. So I'll probably be picking through my TBR pile pretty soon to decide what I want to read next, so maybe I'll film that. I'm actually listening to the audiobook of this right now and loving it. I do love Lauren Groff. Okay, my next section. This is probably my most specifically Maxine emotion section. And the other ones, I promise I use actual emotion words, but this is my section to ease longings for an afternoon on a Scottish trail. It's true. It's a very specific feeling that I get. I couldn't think of a word to describe it. There's something about Scotland for me. I feel so at home there. I love the landscape and I love the culture that the Scots have around walking and the history that they have around walking. My mom and I spent 11 days walking from coast to coast in Scotland last fall. I also ran the Loch Ness Marathon in Inverness last fall. So it's really a passion of mine. And I definitely need books that will hit that spot when I can't hop a plane to Scotland. Quick shout out here to a couple of my most returned to books, which is Plain Water by Anne Carson, Close Range by Annie Proulx, and The Shell Collector by Anthony Doerr. These are all collections, I would say. Plain Water is sort of genre bending, but The Shell Collector and Close Range are short story collections. The story Brokeback Mountain is in Close Range, so that might be something that people are familiar with. They're just all in different ways, very beautiful, celebratory of wild spaces, celebratory of humans' connection with wild spaces, and thoughtful. So yeah, it turns out that collection, in addition to just like some kind of travel books, that collection ended up mostly being poetry that section of my collection ended up being mostly poetry or collected essays or short stories. All right, my next section over is my section to cure aimlessness. So here I have tarot cards, which are excellent to consult for aimlessness, as well as some little self-help books and inspirational books, as well as some philosophy, and also just a couple things thrown in there that I felt like either the characters in the stories were really driven and not at all plagued by aimlessness, so inspiring for those reasons, or just something about reading the book kind of made me feel driven or directed. So that's that section. Fun shout out for this one. I was the publicist on this book. This is actually, as you can see, a proof. This isn't the published book, This is written by Erica Feldman, House Magic. She runs the store House Witch in Salem, Massachusetts, which is an incredible store. She's a really inspiring, cool, creative person. And the book has all kinds of fun like projects and advice for transforming your home and making it the safe, welcoming, positive energy haven that we all want our homes to be. And then over here in the corner, I have my section to cure writer's block. So some of these are literal guides or, instructional type things for writing. Others of them, I just find the writing to be inspiring and impeccably constructed. Leslie Jameson definitely falls in that camp for me. I find everything that I've read by her so far has just been so smart. And she is someone whose work I consult often when I'm struggling with how to structure a piece of my own. She just came out with a new memoir, which I have not read yet, but definitely looking forward to. Paul Harding also falls in that camp. This is my favorite book of his, Tinkers, which won the Pulitzer Prize. And I am reading his most recent novel right now, so TBD on that. But so far, it's held up to the high standard that I have for Paul Harding. Okay, I'm gonna kind of skim back over here to the other side again. This section is mostly, I gotta crouch down for you here. This section is mostly my husband's management and business references and advice. So I don't have a whole lot to say there. But also, so this is the section for if you need some advice. Also, I have some of my dictionaries for foreign languages that I've studied. And then we have a couple running reference books because my husband and I are both runners. Okay. Next, we have, I'm still practicing with the video thing, so sorry, y'all. We have this like stabilizer stick thing, but I can't figure out how to put my phone on it because I'm an idiot and I didn't buy it, so I don't know how to look it up. Next time, my next video will be much more stable. So this section here, which starts with Dream Lives of Debris by Lance Olson, and extends to The Emperor of All Maladies, is for the world weary. So a lot of the books that I put in this collection are kind of absurd or confront absurdity and really help shake me out of that world weary feeling. What is life? What are we doing? What's the meaning of it all? Those kind of questions, or just, I think world weariness can sometimes just be boredom, and nothing in this section is boring at all. A lot of it also requires pretty close attention, and I find that when I'm in that world weary state, having something that is going to really draw me in and require that I focus on every word, for example, reading Joyce or Beckett, is not something that you can do with half your brain. I also put a couple books in here that are nonfiction and just freaking fascinating. I love a good pop science or kind of pop nonfiction book that tackles a complicated subject and does it in a well-constructed way. So two books for the that fall into that category for me are Eve by Kat Bohannon, and that one's pretty recent. The subtitle says it all: How the Female Body Drove 2 Million Years of Human Evolution. It's fascinating. I learned so much about human bodies and human social structures. And then The Emperor of All Maladies, one that you've probably heard of. It's about really the history of cancer treatment and our understanding of cancer. And it is big. It's a project to tackle it, but it is so fascinating. And as someone whose life has been touched very personally by cancer, it was really informative for me. And then I have a small little section for when you need a good cry. Right now I only have 3 books in there, Ava by Carol Mazo, one of my absolute favorites, also a book that I return to often. The Little Paris Bookshop, which inspired my book organization, and obviously one of my favorites. And then When Breath Becomes Air. Oh, just a total tearjerker. As you can tell, it's kind of a pretty skinny, quick read, but that will really make you grateful for your life, honestly. Grateful to be alive, and will definitely draw some tears if you need them. All right, next I have Restlessness, and this is a little bit different for me than World Weariness. So Restlessness is really when I'm in need of an adventure. So a lot of these books, which does not include The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse, that's the next section, but a lot of these books for me are kind of adventure books. So some of them are fiction and some of them are literally about taking adventures or looking for creatures outside. But books like Dune, Gardens of the Moon are in here. So those are not for me escapist fantasy because they're a little bit denser. They require a little bit more attention, but they take you on incredible adventures, wild world building. Also included in there, I'll give 2 shout outs to these books down here. This is the collected fiction, short fiction by Borges. Very adventurous writing, beautiful language, and definitely will make you feel like you've been on journeys of all sorts. And then The House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski is probably one of the only books that I've read that really made me feel scared and unnerved. It's a genre-bending horror story, I suppose. It's avant-garde and crazy, and you have to, it's an adventure to even read it. You kind of have to decide how to read it and what instructions in the text to follow. It's a total mind trip. So if people are more curious about that, I could probably do a whole video on that, honestly. But that one will definitely shake you out of any feelings of restlessness. And then my final section is for the Sunday blues. So this is probably my largest section. In here, I put books that feel like a hug or books that you can really sink into their story. So those are great for me on Sundays when you have that kind of like, oh no, like life is too short and I've got to go spend it at work kind of angst. You'll notice the Harry Potter books in there. I suppose now, maybe I should switch the camera for this. I'm sitting on the floor so yeah, not a great shot, but I suppose now is as good a time as any to address the fact that I am a major Harry Potter fan. I grew up reading Harry Potter. Harry Potter is something that I listen to on audiobook a couple times a year. I return to it often. The stories and the characters were deeply influential for me during formative years of my life. And the stories remain very powerful for me in spite of my profound heartbreak and disappointment in J.K. Rowling's behavior towards the trans community. I do not support or condone her actions or her behaviors. I, of course, believe that trans people deserve to be safe, accepted, and loved just like all of us do, and have been, I think, one of very many passionate readers of Harry Potter who felt deeply let down by J.K. Rowling. I suppose I feel fortunate that I'm able for myself to separate the stories and the world from the author's behavior in the real world, and have been able to hold on to those stories and those characters as the special places and people that they are for me. So that's where I'm at on Harry Potter. Also a conversation that I'd be interested to have more of if people are interested. So there's that. So yes, you'll see you'll see my Harry Potters there. This one's actually pretty fun. I bought this in London. This was a special release for the 20-year publishing anniversary. and they were like themed for the houses. So this is the Hufflepuff version, which is my current the current house with which I identify most closely. Ah, oh no. I knocked her over. I gotta pause. Okay, we're back. So yes, that's my section for the Sunday blues. It also includes this beautiful The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. You've probably seen that around. I was lucky enough to be the publicist for the American version edition of that book, and I am so excited and proud when I see it around because it is so sweet and such beautiful, simple drawings that really can give you a hug when you need one. Charlie Maxey is also a super fun person to follow on Instagram. And yeah, the last thing on my shelf over here, this is kind of fun. This is a vintage typewriter that I'm currently using to house my souvenir bookshops from some of my favorite bookstores. But yeah, I do have this fun girl over here. And I didn't really say any sort of sign off or goodbye on the video, so I figure I'll say that now. Thanks so much for joining me as I reorganized my bookshelves, and I'm excited to chat with y'all soon. Ta-ta!